we've been talking a lot about open platforms and open data for the past couple days. And what we want to do is kind of bring up some experts in these areas and get their thoughts. Because, again, just to remind you, one of the things that we want to be very cognizant of is that when we go back to our agencies, we want to have armed you with information that can help you communicate with your leaders so that, you take their expertise and you can incorporate into your own thinking and then communicate that back when you get home. So I'd like to first start by asking each of our panelists to introduce themselves and tell a little bit about who they are and what they're doing. So Clara.
Hi, everybody. I'm Claire Brenner. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Tumml, which is based in San Francisco. We're a nonprofit, and we think of ourselves as an urban ventures accelerator. So we're looking to empower entrepreneurs to solve some of our most challenging urban problems. So think the next generation of Zipcar, of Yelp, of Airbnb, companies that are developing consumer-facing products and services that solve urban problems.
Kris?
So I'm Kris Trujillo with Accela, Director of Software Development. I've been with Accela for quite a while, I think 11 years now. Was the architect before this. I also serve as a volunteer on a Code for America brigade in my hometown, so I'm very active in that and really involved with the movement in civic hacking, if you will, and what's going on with open data.
Excellent. Good morning. First, let me just give a shout out to my son, Jacob, who's turning 10 today. So happy birthday, buddy. My name is Pirnejad. I'm the Development Services Director for the City of Palo Alto. We're a one-stop shop to help expedite the development review process. We have representatives from all the different departments in our city: fire, utilities, public works, planning, all in one place. We try to expedite the permit process. And as part of that, we brought on Accela to help forward us in our technologies. One thing that sets us apart is that we have an open platform in Palo Alto. We're all about open data, but more importantly, and why I'm here today, is I want to make open data something that everybody can take advantage of. I want it to be something that's mainstream, that we can all, small, mid-size, or large city, can take advantage of.
Jack?
My name is Jack Madans. I'm the Government Partnerships Manager at Code for America. How many of y'all have heard about Code for America before? All right, wonderful, great. And so basically, we are a Peace Corps for geeks. We are a Teach for America for civic hackers. And I'm here to tell you why there's a movement of people who want to help you use the people and power of the web to connect with your citizens.
So Peter, I wanted to kind of start off with you. Why do you feel so strongly about open data, and what do you think what difference does it make in Palo Alto for you?
For Palo Alto, it's making a huge difference because we're all about collaboration. Take my department, for instance. It's a very small department, but we're large if you look at how many people are connected to our department. We have pieces of every single department represented in development services. Same thing relates to our collaboration with the private industry. We've realized very early on, having been in government sector for 15 years, that we're very constrained. We're like a fixed income senior citizen, where we can only do as much as we can with our certain amount of assets. So how do we continue to provide new services, elevated services, improved services? It's by partnering. It's by partnering with other agencies. It's by partnering with corporate partners, nonprofit partners, NGOs. Code for America has brought that together, made it possible that we can really expand our reach, provide greater and better service to our customers, our constituents. It's through that collaboration, that partnership, that we can actually continue to reach out and develop new applications, new services for our constituents. And it's in the open data realm that that's going to make it happen. It's creating that ability to make it easier for applications and partners to come on board and create services that we can't in our own world create. So I look forward to this conference, and I hope that it really opens up a lot of opportunities.
So Jack, how has the open data movement helped the, how did you describe yourself again? The Peace Corps?
Peace Corps for geeks.
Peace Corps for geeks. How has it help you guys grow and understand government processes and take advantage of things?
Well, that's kind of the funny part. I was looking around at the name tags when I got here yesterday, and I saw Chief Building Official, Head of Inspections, all of these amazing titles, and I can just tell you that there are so many people that would love to just talk to you guys. And I'm excited to hear about your process, and so would they. And so when we start thinking about how open data starts to change that, or it starts to create a sense of possibility around what can be done with technology, it's because there are people really interested in this process. And so what we've seen is, or are seeing, is a quiet revolution in city halls across the country where no longer IT departments are seen as just having something to do with keeping the phones on and doing email. You guys are now being asked to integrate with core services. And you're kind of saying 10 years ago you guys wouldn't even let me in the door, and now you want me to do this really complex stuff. And I think that Code for America and this Peace Corps for Geeks can be a great way to show what's possible when it comes to the ways that you can integrate with these core services.
So Clara, I think one of the differentiators between what Tumml's doing is that you guys are really focused on incubating companies that can take advantage of open data and services that our customers offer. I mean, can you give us some specific examples about that and why it's important?
Sure. So we think about open data in the context of how can we offload some of the burden of government by sort of encouraging for-profit companies to sort of step in. So, we think of it as 81% of Americans now live in cities. That number is just projected to grow and grow. And at the same time, just in light of the fiscal climate that we're in, municipalities can't provide all of those quality of life services and amenities that make it so great to live in our cities. And so we feel like it's really important to encourage companies like, we're working with a company now called WorkHands, which is basically like a LinkedIn for blue-collar workers. And we think that they provide a tremendous service to skilled craftsmen and workers in our cities, and they use a lot of open data from cities. They're not looking to get hired by government or go through a government procurement process, but they use things like, are the people on our site, do they have some kind of specialty, like driver's license, or are they a master plumber, or have they received any kind of permitting from the city? And they actually go in and check it through partnerships that they've built with various cities, and they can provide that information so that employers who are looking to hire really skilled workers who maybe are a member of a particular union or who have a particular skill, and they can just check and know that that information is correct.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we talked about here at the conference for the past few years is how, there's going to be applications and services that we really didn't even imagine that would be available through data, through the data that's in our system. Open data is the latest buzzword around that, but when I visited at your office, the WorkHands group, I mean, one of the things that immediately came to mind was that a lot of the data in our customer systems is reflective of the projects that they've worked on, the permits that they've pulled, the inspections that they've participated in. So there's a lot of information there that can be brought into WorkHands to help people understand a little bit more about who these professionals are. So I thought that it's very applicable, but something that you wouldn't necessarily have thought of maybe a few years ago.
Absolutely, and I think that's the key to open data. Open data is only as valuable as it is to somebody who's going to do something with it. So you need companies, private citizens that are going to be able to take this information and translate it into a business or a project. And so being able to make that information accessible is incredibly important.
So Kris, when when we're formulating our strategy on open data and how we think that we're going to use what's out there available in the marketplace and how people are talking about open data, how are we trying to help our customers with their strategies so that they can offer these services?
Well, one of the things I've seen being involved with what people are trying to do with open data as far as our customers is that getting the data out of your back-end systems, especially out of Accela or specifically out of Accela, and keeping that data updated is a challenge when your IT staff already has many things to do, and learning an API from a vendor is something that really they're not wanting to do, if you will. So, what we're up to is making it a lot easier to create open data sets from your Accela data and publish those out to an open data environment where they can be consumed. As I've been involved with the development teams and the groups that are forming through Code for America and through my own brigade that I participate in, just having an API isn't really enough. I mean, and there's a lot of engineers out there, a lot of developers that want to do things, but when they know how to read API docs, they understand that. They don't understand what's behind that. They don't understand the data sets. And so being able to browse open data catalogs and see data sets that way is really key. And the key for us is to create an easy to use environment to publish those data sets, and for those data sets to be kept updated in real time. And that's another key for what we're up to is the real time data sets. One of the things that I've also noticed is that the STEL data sets you saw some of the apps that were being shown earlier. It's those real-time data sets that really can create powerful applications, and that's what we're up to, is creating an environment that will do that.
So if someone were to say to you, Kris, what's Accela's open data strategy, how would you respond to that?
Our open data strategy, I think that's the question. I would answer that in we're looking to make it easy for agencies to create open data sets from Accela data, as well as publish other data sets within an environment and create a regional open data catalog where developers and people like that can go and quickly find the data.
So Jack, when you guys move into these agencies and I think one of the things that you didn't describe well enough or at least for our audience, I mean, I know it because I participate, is the process of how do you work with government agencies just from the start? Mm-hmm. So the application process, the selection process, and once kind of you get going with the internships at the agencies, kind of talk about that a little bit.
Right.
And then I'll follow that up with another question.
Okay, all right. Let me try it again. So basically the core program we have is a fellowship where we've had about 600 people apply every year to get 20 to 28 spots to be Code for America Fellows, which means we're recruiting developers, designers, and data scientists from the internet industry to go embed in city halls across the country for a year. The first year we had 3 cities. The next year we have 8. This year we have 8, and next year we'll have 9. And so what that means is that come January, we get 26 fresh-faced fellows, which started as a program that was really kind of for a lot of the millennials that you've probably come to mind. Now it's become a mid-career professional program for people from Google, from Microsoft, who want to spend a year working on something that matters. We train them for a month in negotiations and change management. Then they embed in city halls for a month, talking to everyone under the sun. They come in with a broad problem statement. And then they spend those next few months honing in on an application that's typically really lightweight that can help solve that problem. And so I think that the best example of what this means in action is actually 2 people that are sitting in the audience right now who are 2012 Code for America Fellows for New Orleans, who they went to New Orleans and found there's obviously a huge problem with blight, and people are so frustrated about getting the information about blighted housing, and so basically they would have to call 7 different people in order to get what is the status of this property down the block that is hurting the value of my house to the tune of thousands of dollars. How do I find out what's happening to it? How do we get it remediated? How do we get it demolished, et cetera? And so what they did was they took inspiration from Domino's Pizza, and there's a little status bar that you can see on their product called Civic Insight. I believe they have a booth in the other room. And what we saw was that this application changed the conversation in New Orleans. You now have people who can call up their city council person and say they can complain about that house on the end of the block, and now the staff person can say exactly what the status is by simply using the same public-facing application that's available to the citizen, and they can also say your council person is now watching this property because they can subscribe to alerts that show any time that the status of that property has changed. And we've seen all over the place that this has changed the conversation. One of the biggest users of this application in New Orleans is Habitat for Humanity, and they use this to target and prioritize their interventions. So we're seeing an example of an application that makes the city into not just a partner, but a strong partner for the efforts of outside organizations, as well as for the level of trust that a citizen has that the government is getting it right.
One of the things I love
Was that
about
better?
it-
Was
yeah,
that better?
well, that's great. And you know, I want to talk about it from the standpoint of the way I think our customers would look at this, is that what you're doing is you're taking people in their mid-20s, early 30s who've been immersed in technology at Google and other places for the past their entire lives, and putting them in government, knowing all of the things that are possible to do with technology, and taking those ideas and helping solve problems. So one of the challenges that that we always have is being able to help governments understand what they can do with technology and how they can improve their processes. And I think that's really the powerful thing about Code for America and what you guys are doing. So my follow-on question is, when you get into agencies, I mean, I'm just going to assume that one of the really tough things, once you identify the problem, is actually getting the data. So the role that open data has played in getting you access to that information and helping you move things forward.
Got it. Well, and you got it half right. It's not so much the fellows come in with a wide range of understanding of all the new programming language and methodologies that are making technology move at such a rapid pace in the consumer web. But the ideas for what they're going to do, we found, actually come from the government officials and staff themselves. Blight Status, now Civic Insight, which is the product that these fellows who are now entrepreneurs are offering, was actually a glimmer in the CIO of New Orleans Eye. And we've encountered a whole group of government officials who have a vision of government working differently, but they just need the capacity, time, and resources to make that a reality.
Yeah, you make a great point there, because one of the things that I find, we hire new employees is that they may understand technology, but they don't understand government. So being able to pair them up with people who've been in the industry, our customers, so that they can share the problems that they have. And it's those little details. It's those little details that make a difference. You can talk about high-level concepts, but bringing the details that our customers know, and a lot of people at our company know, been around for 20 plus years, that's really what makes the difference.
And you asked, how do we make the case for open data? And I think a really important opportunity that I want to make sure you guys all know about is, what if I told you that next week you could build a entire real estate system that embeds every piece of data you have about code enforcement violations and the health and safety of every piece of residential property in your city by next week? And that becomes a reality with a new open data standard we have called HouseFacts, that basically says, if you simply not just open your data, but open your data in this CSV format, so literally it's just about rearranging the columns in your spreadsheet, we have brokered a relationship with the real estate firm Trulia, where they will integrate the code enforcement violation history for every house and apartment in your city into their platform. That means that you've gone immediately from probably having an interface that gets moderate to low use, that potentially you're processing bug requests for, you have to pay for updates for, to getting a interface that's simple, beautiful, easy to use, that has 31 million unique users a month. And that's the power of open data. And so that's what gets the data out of government. It's what we can't even anticipate yet that gets me really excited about open data, is that once it becomes available, you have a whole community of hackers who see this data as the raw materials for insight. They see interesting visualizations and mashups and the start of new companies, like the ones that are sponsored by Tumml, that can start to work with you guys.
So Peter, you're really on the ground floor of all this, and you run a department, significant department in Palo Alto. Tell us, when you think about open data and kind of the vision that you have for it on a go-forward basis, like where would you like to see it be in 12 months from now?
Well, I think that's a great question, because I think for the success of open data to be tangible to those cities that aren't grappling with the question of how do I make open data available, but they're grappling with the questions of how do I continue to provide the basic level of service for my constituents? I think that's a really important question, and you have to change the framework of what is it that we're trying to accomplish. And I hope that in 10 years, open data is saving cities money. I hope that in 10 years, open data is taking the place of services that we're paying for today. If it's not, then it's going to be a hard case to sell. I think what it needs to do is not add value, but to add value as well as take over for existing interfaces, existing services that we provide, so that we can continue to grow in the ability to provide a greater level of service. I think open data is one of those great opportunities that if we can just get everybody to buy into the significance of it, I think that you'll have a larger audience to pull from. A great example was yesterday when we took the poll of how many people have heard of open data versus how many people are actually using it. It's really not that hard to get an open data platform, but when I've talked to other agencies throughout California, we've realized that there's still an issue there. There's still that trust issue, that ability to open data. I think that's a fundamental question that we still need to conquer. So I hope in 10 years, open data isn't a word that's used by the cutting edge, but a word that's used by
Well, it'll definitely
the
be a new
mainstream.
set of words in 10 years.
I hope so.
You know, we're
I hope
moving
so.
quick, so probably
Yeah.
in 2 years, I hope you're right. But, you know, I know that there's people in the audience who are thinking this, so I'm going to ask the question. You know, in some cases, can you see how agencies would be skeptical about opening their data?
Not in some cases. In most cases.
Well,
So-
what? Yeah. So can you? Well, what? Can you talk a little bit about that? And-
So I'm on the League of California Cities Planning Department. I'm the president of that department next year. And so when I go to my conferences and I ask that question of open data, the response I usually get is, sure, we have open data. We have PDFs of all of our information online. So they don't understand what open data really is. And I think that's the fundamental question, is first explaining what it is and then explaining how easy it is to put the data out there. It took the City of Palo Alto less than $5,000 to create an open data site, and before long, we had applications start to develop on their own. I mean, I got a phone call not too long ago from my good friend Kieran from Ireland, who came to us with an idea to put all of our permit data on a map and make it available to anybody at any time. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity. So my job as a public servant is to try to partner with Kieran and try to get that application out to as many people as possible to get a minimum viable product turned around, improved as quickly as in as many cycles as we could. That's what we can do as public agencies. It's by partnering with our groups, our teams, our members like Code for America and Tumml, is to try to get as many of those applications out there, get them consumed by our users, by our constituents, and then get that feedback back in their hands so they can continue to develop these applications.
So I'll get really specific here, because I know how our customers think. Okay, so, and you know, I definitely see this. So we talked about lives yesterday in Kris's presentation, and you know, I think it's great, super idea. So basically what we're doing is we're taking the scores that public health officials apply to restaurants. You know, it could be numerical, like, you know, 1 through 100, or it could be A, B, C, D, right? So we're taking those and we're integrating them in with Yelp, which sounds like a great idea, okay? I'm all for it. But, you know, I happen to know that a lot of restaurant groups, restaurant association groups, have a problem with this, because they feel like that, well, it's one thing to put the little placard in the window and, you know, put a plant in front of it so that no one sees it. It's a whole different thing to put it on Yelp. You know, there's lots of examples. You know, one of the examples was Boulevard in San Francisco uses wooden spoons to toss their salad instead of stainless steel. And so they got dinged for that. You know, so it turned into, you know, basically turned into something that, you know, the restaurant group was like, hey, we have to be fair about this. So can you, I mean, first of all, I guess, you know, Jack, what do you think about this? I mean, how do you think we overcome some of these issues? Because I do think there is some validity to it when you know, it's one thing to have it, you know, kind of behind the wall. It's another thing to expose it. And then, how can we move forward? Because, you know, I know our customers are going to be faced with some of these questions.
Right. So I think that the first thing is collaboration. we are actually accepting comments on the live standard itself. And so one of those changes you're going to see in the next rev is not that it's just an integer that provides for the health score. It also accommodates for the other health safety regimes that are present in cities, whether that's pass-fail or letter grades and not just scores. Also, what I would add is that what I'm hearing from Yelp is that people don't just click on the score, they click on the score, but they also look at the violation history itself, and they can see if it says something as trivial as wooden versus steel spoons. I didn't even know about that. The second thing is we have to play the long game here and think about not just the value for the citizen to see the number, it's also for the way that both with lives and house facts, we can test whether this is crowdsourcing compliance by making sure that as government has more and more to do, why don't we, as it has less to do it with, why don't we make sure that we're doing more with what we've never had more of, and that is data. And if we can get that data out there and informing citizens' decision-making processes, probably what we'll see is that restaurants are taking these things more seriously. If this is a broken process, it needs to be fixed. And I think that that's one of the most valuable things we'd like to say to the health inspectors is that this is here to make your job easier. This is here to raise the stakes on the grades that you are giving these restaurants.
Well, we're not dealing necessarily with the health inspectors themselves. We're dealing with the restaurant associations
Right.
who are, I mean, we have to, like you said, they're our partners. We have to work with them in some way. So, Claire, what do you think? How does this kind of register in your mind?
Well, I think the Yelp food sort of score example is a really good one in that was a very structured partnership between Yelp, Code for America, and a number of organizations. And I think one thing that we see at Tumml all the time, which is very frustrating, is that we talk to a lot of municipalities who say, like, we put this information out here, why isn't somebody starting something, using it? Like, we know there's a problem, someone should just start a company and fix it. They have everything they need. And what we experience every day is that a lot of entrepreneurs don't know where to find this data. And some of the best relationships come out of very well-structured partnerships. The cities that our entrepreneurs have the most success working with are ones that have a chief data officer, a chief technology officer, a chief innovation officer, a Sherpa basically that they can go to and say, I need this. Can you help me find it?
She said Sherpa. She wasn't even here yesterday.
I wasn't even here yesterday. Was that something that came up
No, that
yesterday?
was the whole point of my presentation, was that these are the
mind-melding.
Sherpas at government agencies.
Well, you guys are incredibly important, and I think that that's, at least from our perspective, working with entrepreneurs, is that they need someone who can help facilitate that relationship, and that's incredibly important. Although something we found recently, which is that a lot of the information is not necessarily held on a municipal level. Some of it is held either regionally or on a statewide basis, and that becomes even harder because most of the people that entrepreneurs are turning to right now, the chief data officer, chief technology officer, whoever.
One of the things that when we talked to Work Hands, or I probably visited with them for 10 minutes, and one of the things that immediately came up was that they wanted to be able to hit the in California, they wanted to be able to hit the contractor license board to make sure that they had a valid license.
Right.
And that's there's obviously questions that the state would have when you start talking about those things. So, definitely, I think that you both are right that the conversations have to be there, and we have to work as a team, both as as government, representatives in government, and as representatives from the private sector to kind of help negotiate these things forward to make it so it's available. Because it's never, it's never 100% black and white. You're never going to say, okay, we're going to throw open data out there and everybody has access to it, it doesn't matter. I'll give you another example of this, and this is one that I'm sure Peter knows, and I know Kris knows about this pretty well, is that here in California, we have to mask any public official's information. Can't put it out online. So if they're a police officer, fireman, congressman, whomever, we can't make it available. So one of the things that, that we've had to do inside our solution is to make it so that our customers can, basically black those people out. So, because you could go on to Palo Alto's website right now and look up, where the mayor lives, if he lives in Palo Alto. Don't know, but if he did.
He better.
Yeah. So you can actually do that. So, we have to, as private industry, we have to architect these solutions that, take into the realities that we're faced with in the world today.
Could I add one thing there?
Absolutely.
I think that what puts us in really stark contrast is we had in Akron, Ohio, about 2 weeks before their National Day of Civic hacking event, someone had hacked into their system and stolen 100,000 social security numbers of everyone that had paid taxes online for business permits, et cetera. And what a crushing blow to a local civic infrastructure. And one of our fellows came up to me and said, what am I going to do? We have our National Day of Civic Hacking that the county manager and the mayor of Akron have just endorsed. They're gonna look so totally insensitive to this problem. And so what we did is we actually wrote an op-ed in the paper, and we said the fact that it was taken without permission completely contradicts our values in open data. Open data is prefaced on permission, and the fact that just because they stole it doesn't mean that we're getting the institutional change. We're not slowly nudging and moving institutions, whether or not be the interest from the restaurant associations or from the people working within City Hall. Unless there is permission, unless people feel comfortable about it, it's not an open data success because we're not institutionalizing a standard for openness.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that makes some great points. We just need to make sure that we, as private industry, work very closely, with the public sector to basically be sensitive to, concerns that they have. So, Kris, what are your thoughts around these issues? I know that's one of the things that we've struggled with at Accela over the years is, how do we build these lightweight securities in to make sure that we protect, the public sector's interest in publishing information?
Well, we've been up to this for a while with citizen access, essentially, and in the product, you're able to configure your rules around what data you're exposing anonymously for registered users, which fields are available, which fields aren't available. And so as we're approaching open data, we're really taking those rules into consideration that have been already configured into the product. And so as you're exposing those data sets, those same rules that you've been configuring will be taken into account and applied to those data sets. So I think that's something that we're really able to get ahead of because of our experience in citizen access. Essentially through your citizen access interface, you're creating open data sets, especially when you have them through an anonymous search capability, which a lot of agencies out there do. You got to envision those are available for people to just go and browse. They're just not in a machine readable format. And I think that's the key difference is we're providing now an API, a machine readable way to get at those data sets that you're already exposing essentially through citizen access.
So Peter, I'm going to let you get the last word. One of the things that I was surprised you didn't bring up is the value of having open data in real time. And what are your thoughts around that? I know it's something that you've evangelized to us, but tell the audience what you think, how we can do better.
Well, when I first talked to Kiran for Building I, the first part of that conversation was, what can we do to make you successful? And he says, I need data and I need it in real time. And so we didn't have the port to make that happen quite yet. We had conversation with Gerald and we worked out a solution. But the bottom line is that if I'm not giving him the data in the format and in the real time, current up-to-date information, then it wasn't useful for him. And if it wasn't useful for him, then he wouldn't develop the application. I think that's really, if I could leave you with one point, that would be go to those partners, go to them and ask them what is it that they need in order to develop applications that are going to help you reach to your constituents easier, quicker, more effectively, and then create those datas in those platforms, in those configurations to help them do your job and to help you reach out to your constituents faster, better, more easily. So having a data platform is the first step, but that's not where it ends. Then comes the partnerships, comes the collaboration. It's not just a build it and they will come. It's a build it, reach out, collaborate, help them understand the touch points, help them understand where is it that information can be accessed and what does the constituents think about that data so that they can develop products that actually do civic good. And that's where we hold the power to develop these applications to a point where they can actually become successful. So, if nothing else, you in this audience hold the power to create an astonishing amount of civic good by partnering and collaborating with those folks that are here to partner with you. So I encourage you to to continue to fight the good fight, and hopefully we can talk amongst ourselves to decide how we can better reach out and collaborate among each other and among the private corporations.
Thank you, Peter. I'd like to thank Clara, Kris, Peter. Awesome. We really appreciate it. You know, I also, want to thank Jack for coming down from Code for America, and sharing. One of the things that I really wanted you to be able to do is to tell our customers, I think every single one of them should apply to
You
the
totally
program.
should. You guys
I
all
think
should.
every single one of them should. And when you guys are, will you be here for a while today?
Yeah, I'm actually hosting a discussion about open data standards at lunch. So please bring all of your open data problems, and we will solve them at lunch.
Well, and talk to him about filling out an application and being a Code for America City. I think
There's a ton of different ways to get involved, and I'd love to chat with you about it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming down.
Sure. Anytime.